the noosphere, the astral plane, the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere. I try to stay really, really grounded in the science the best I can. I know it's a bit boyo science, but I stay grounded in that the best I can, because it's something I can sort of rely on. So I'm going to give you 3 different possibilities, if you will, about what I'm thinking. Now, one of them I've already kind of cracked into, about the idea of the dreams speaking to the left hemisphere, or the right hemisphere speaking to the left hemisphere through dreams. You can look up the studies that talk about this. Now, the reason why this stuff starts to get kind of weird is because, like, if you look up Operation Stargate by the CIA, what the CIA did is they were trying to figure out, is there anything to all these fucking wanking mystics? Like, what the hell is going on here with this stuff? And so they actually sat people down and they started to put on CG scans to their heads and get them to meditate, get high-level meditators in, get Nepalese meditators, get weird New Age people in. And they discovered that these people were actually doing things like, well, all right, as much as we can trust what was coming out from some type of declassified study about meditation and astral projection and all that, they discovered that they could actually train people to astrally project, so they claim. And what they noticed is that what would happen is that they get this thing called hemisyncs, this experience of the 2 hemispheres within the brain. When you create this deep experience of relaxation through Kundalini yoga, is literally what they said, you would create this synchronization between the 2 hemispheres, which would then create a sort of unified consciousness that is different than normal, which would allow people to remote view stuff. So they claim. I don't know what it is. You can literally go look up the documents if you want. It's extremely interesting. There's plenty of science underneath this as well. If you've ever heard about brain waves, you know about, for example, you've got the low brain waves that chill you out. Gamma brain waves, they're very, very famous for being the highest ones we get. When you stand there and you put together an idea, you have a eureka moment. You're like, oh, eureka, that type of feeling in your head or feeling in your mind. That's a flash of gamma waves. That's usually when you get them. And what happens is everything comes together. And of course, actually what happens during that moment is the synchronization of the brain. Everything flashes together in this regard. A high level Nepalese meditator who is close to, shall we say, nirvana, who's done 20 years of work, they usually have this constant all the time ping of a gamma wave going on. So these guys have trained themselves to switch on this synchronization. And of course, they see that the brain transmits and speaks across the hemispheres when you get these type of gamma waves in. So there's a possibility that, yes, through something like meditation, you switch the brains together and get them to work together. And this is taking possibly the dreaming mind and the normal left hemisphere broca's era ego and getting them to talk to each other. Now, the reason why I keep on, I might even be proposing this, and I'm only saying these foundations because I don't know how many people aren't familiar with my videos and whatnot. For example, when you cut, so when someone has epilepsy, they usually cut the middle between the 2 brains, and this is where they actually started to study this. And what they found is that you can actually show the person words, and the left hemisphere will see the words on one side, but it won't see the words on the other side. But you can get then the left hand to draw what it saw, and it will draw the word on the side that the left hemisphere didn't see it. So the conscious mind can see one side of it, which seems like it's on the left hemisphere, but the right hemisphere can sit there and see something and use the left hand, because they're cross-wired, to draw what it sees. But when you ask the person what did they see, they won't tell you what they see. So it almost looks like consciousness is separate and the right hemisphere is like close
so like they're thinking and they're getting visions as if somebody else is implanting to get into their heads of what to write at that point. When it comes to Kundalini, I'm glad you mentioned it, because that's the last thing that I did not mention. I also have the Kundalini in the back, and I've had it for several years. So when it comes to doing like the Wim Hof method, various breathing techniques, what ended up happening is like you breathe in slowly in and out, and all of a sudden you got this weird liquid snake-like energy that's going up and down through your back, doing whirls, and I don't know exactly what the end point of this is going to be. People who have described having certain profound experiences, like my friend John Chavez, who did the documentary over here in chat. You could see DMT Quest, retweeted by Joe Rogan, by the way, and Dennis McKenna, and we had Dennis on our show. But anyway, he talks about how you're absolutely right, like these various brain waves are able to be manifested when people either take DMT, or when people meditate, or when people also like meditate in combination with these breathing techniques. So what I don't know, though, is what exactly happens towards the end. He described his experience, but he was also under DMT, I believe, at the time, or mushrooms, where his consciousness felt like it went up through the spine and went all the way out of his brain and just went several feet up in the air. And a lot of monks describe this sensation of samadhi, as they call it, where you, as the perceiver, and whatever it is that you're perceiving combines together into one whole. So at that point, you do feel like, I am the oneness of the the universe, but it doesn't last. And the interesting thing for me is, like, sure, we could say eventually we are all one man and all that, but as far as how these things can actually change us as far as who we are, like a lot of the romanticism, I think, comes from this idea of there being these Hyperboreans or these Atlanteans or these various people who were able to. Yeah, no, we're definitely getting into it.
History. Speaking of the CIA,